I hated auctions. I thought it was a scam. I hated real estate agents.
Yeah.
But now I'm attending so many auctions and I would love to cover every single auction in the whole of Australia. A quick question for you. Do you know, on average, how many auctions happen in Melbourne on a given Saturday?
I have no idea. 200.
It's more like 800, 900.
Wow.
On a super Saturday, you can even get up to 1,300 auctions. What buyers should be paying attention to at an auction is not the sold price. And the reason for that is because
How do you guys make money?
when it first started, it was more of an hobby. For 2 years, the whole of 2015 and 2016, I was just doing it, knowing that I'm building an audience on one side and knowing that real estate agents love what I was doing. But I didn't know where and how do I monetize. But everything changed when eventually I quit my job. I sold my house. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a business.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to the Clik Collective podcast, I Started a Business, where we celebrate the journeys of e-commerce enthusiasts and entrepreneurs. I'm Andrew, your host, and in each episode we shine a spotlight on one of our members. We'll dive into their business journey, why they started, how they're going, their highs and lows, and everything in between. In this episode, we chat with Moorabbin Bala, founder of AuctionReporters, where he streams real estate auctions live to various platforms and offers valuable auction insights beyond sold prices, making property research simple and convenient. Let's start off by briefly introducing yourself and your business.
Awesome, cool. So my name is Moorabbin. I'm the founder of AuctionReporters. We're essentially a media business, but we do things a little bit different because of our mission. And that mission is really to make the transparency that everyone benefits from at auction, make that available and accessible conveniently to anyone who is researching the market or, just trying to get to know the process a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what inspired you to start AuctionReporters and how has the business evolved since you've started? And I guess also, when did you start?
In terms of AuctionReporters, it was never really something that, I planned from the start. And what inspired me to start AuctionReporters was really threefold. One was I was trying to solve my own problem. The frustrations that I had when I was in the market looking to buy. Auctions form an integral part of that research to keep me just fully informed about what's really happening in the market and how much should I pay for something. The other side of it was being exposed to a lot of auctions. I discovered a few gaps in the market, a few opportunities. Real estate agents came to me asking for different things. And on the other side, when I was putting these videos out there, on social media publicly, what was happening was I was building a bit of an audience. That gave me a bit of a purpose. And the other thing was, when it first started, it was more of an hobby. And when I got tired of taking notes, writing down every single bit, how much it sold for, I started doing videos. And that helped me build that audience I was talking about. Yeah. But at that point, we just had our first son.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And my wife was like, okay, we've purchased this property. Why are you still going out to auctions? Right.
Okay.
And then I felt like, I had all this knowledge. I could attend an auction. After attending hundreds of auctions, I could attend an auction. For most people, they get stressed out, not knowing how much something would sell for and whatnot. But I would inspect the property and do a bit of quick research, but I had all this head knowledge after going to all these auctions, and I could very confidently, within $20,000 to $30,000 range, predict what it would actually sell for.
Yeah.
And I felt that was a lot of valuable information that if I stop attending auctions, it would just disappear and mean nothing, right? So I was determined to keep going.
Yep.
But I didn't know what was going to happen next.
Okay.
Right? So I guess on the other side, my wife was like putting pressure,
Yeah.
I think you need to stop your hobby.
Yeah.
If you're going to turn it into the business, then do it quickly.
Turn it into a business, yeah.
But if you're not going to get paid, I think this hobby needs to stop because we've got a son.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that pressure kind of pushed things forward and got me talking to the various parties that I was actually adding value to. Again, look at the problem that I was facing, the frustration that I had faced when I was looking to buy the property. So if any of you are in the market looking to buy or sell, and you're researching the market, you're looking at auction results, there are two things that you'll notice very quickly. The first thing is not every auction result is published.
Okay.
Sometimes they're not reported.
Yep.
So, for example, you might be looking at a listing and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. It's going to auction tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, oh, tomorrow at 5 p.m., realestate.com.au will publish the results. So you go to the auction results that is being published at 5 p.m. and then you'd be like, oh, that property isn't on the list. So you do not know what happened. You do not know whether it sold, whether it passed in, for how much. You have no idea. So that was one of the main problems or frustration I was going through. The second thing was, even if it is reported, sometimes it'll be reported as sold, but price undisclosed.
Yeah.
So now, again, you don't know anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand.
So if you're trying to research how much to pay for the next property that you're looking to put an offer or bid at auction, this sold price is very valuable.
Yes.
Or the result, whether it passed in or sold, is very valuable to inform you about what you're going to do when you're going to make that offer. So all of this frustration got me to go back to the drawing board and really ask myself, okay, this is the frustration. This is how, by doing what I'm doing, I'm adding value and I need to turn it into a business. How can I bring everything together? So I guess, a mixture of all of that gave birth to what we have now, AuctionReporters. Yeah.
Oh, well, look, because I can start to see why you started it and where all of that, what your mission is, I think, from your description. What was your experience before that?
For 10 years leading up to everything with AuctionReporters and real estate in general, I was actually in e-commerce.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's that's interesting.
So I was working for a company called catch.com.au. Back then it was called Catch of the Day. Yep. It was pretty secure. The company was growing. There was job security. And, like most people, after being in a very comfortable job, you start wondering what's next. And for me, I was very happy working at Catch and I wanted to do more, right? And then I started researching, investing in property and stuff like that. That's how I kind of got into it. So what actually happened was, being an Asian, if you want to learn something, what do? You go and sign up for a course and whatnot. Yeah. So when I wanted to, get started with investing in property, I felt like I didn't know anything about property, but more importantly, I hated auctions. I hated auctions. I thought it was a scam. I thought I hated real estate agents.
Yep.
I would just go for private listings.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And whenever you do your research, you arrive at what you think is a good opportunity, something with subdivision potential or something for you to add value to that property in a good location or whatever it may be. What I found 9 out of 10 times, it was an auction listing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. And there's always lots of competition. This was in 2014, 2014, the market wasn't that great, but 2015, 16, it became better. So I wanted to, learn more about, real estate investing and auctions in general. So what I did was I signed up for the agent's rep course.
Okay.
Right. So I figured that, in the industry, you look up to real estate agents as the professionals in the industry. So why don't I, learn from their
materials, their courses. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll know what they know.
Yeah.
So I did the agent's rep course and that was a very short course. And then I was like, I didn't really learn much. So then I went and signed up for the next course, which is a license course. It's called the Cert 4, the Certificate 4 in Property Services or something to that extent.
Yep.
So I signed up for that course. That took a lot longer. So I did all of this while I was working full-time at Catch. And then it came to a point where I started attending all these auctions.
Yes.
I started... I'm a qualified person, so I can work in real estate. Yeah. So having that knowledge and going out to a lot of auctions and immersing myself in the whole industry, it came to a point where like I was mentioning earlier, my wife was saying, start a business.
You seem to have some dangerous hobbies so far.
Yeah. So everything kind of led together. I had the education, I had the head knowledge.
Yes.
And then it came to a point where I was asking myself, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, Catch was going through
ownership change, I think.
A bit of an ownership change, and I guess they're trying the owners of the business were trying to exit.
Yes.
Right. So as you can imagine, within the business, there was no like clear purpose. That was the kind of vibe that was going on at work.
Yep.
And I was like asking myself, do I want to stick around for this? Or, there's so much happening in this space. Maybe we should go and find out, what the opportunity is here.
Yeah.
So what actually happened was I quit my job.
Yep.
Actually, prior to that, I sold my house,
Yep.
the principal place of residence. I sold my house
Yep.
just to have a bit of a backup.
Yep.
And I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. Yeah, but I sold my house so that I have a bit of backup. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a business.
Yes.
But I didn't feel I knew enough about the industry. So what I did was I sold my house, had that backup. I quit my job and I became a real estate agent.
That's wild. I can see why your wife was sort of like, you need to turn your hobbies into businesses because otherwise you're going to sell your house again.
Yeah, I mean, now looking back, probably I would have done things a bit differently. But no regrets nonetheless.
Yeah.
So I quit my job. I became a real estate agent, thinking that at least I'll have some kind of income while I'm still figuring out what the business model is and how I can actually make money from doing what I love doing.
Yeah.
But then I realized prior to that, I was more operational based. So like my role at Catch was I'm referred to as a fireman, right?
Yep.
Because I've been in the business for so long. Everyone from any department will come to me with a problem to try and help them fix that problem. So I had a lot of problem solving skills.
Yep.
I was a jack of all trades. And I genuinely like problem solving.
Yes.
But I never had any sales experience.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So here I am thinking that, okay, maybe I can become a real estate agent because I've done the course, because of this.
You had all the head knowledge. Yeah.
But I was terrified knocking on doors. And I'm actually glad I went through that process. But what ended up happening is for the first 6 months, 5 to 6 months, I was door knocking.
Yep.
And I didn't even get a sale, a single sale. Yeah. So if you don't list the property, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Eventually, I got one listing. And that gave me a lot of experience, and really put myself in the shoes of the people who would eventually be my clients.
Yes.
Now, when I approach a real estate agent, I've been
there.
I've walked their path.
Yeah.
I've done what they've done.
Yeah.
Not to their extent, obviously, but I understand, what they're going through. Auction Reporters wasn't born out of me being a real estate agent or helping people buy properties, but that certainly shaped my understanding and the value creation process in how I managed to turn it into a business. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It sounds like sort of your hobbies are big time investments, and as well, like you sort of really did the research and put the time in to be able to understand the industry, which I think gives you a really big leg up if you're running a business like this, which is sort of, I would imagine, there was a lot of technology involved. There's a lot of data and insights and that kind of thing, but you actually understand what the on the ground feel is like for the sellers and for the buyers. So I guess from there, like, why do you view it as important for auction reporters to be part of the buying and selling process, the auction process? And how does your service make researching properties easier for both sort of, let's say, the seasoned investor and first-time buyers and everybody in between?
I think that's a very good question, but I don't think Auction Reporters is that important.
Okay.
All right. But what is important is having auctions as part of everyone's buying or selling journey, as part of their research. What Auction Reporters do is make that more accessible, make it easier. Yeah. Right? Because we are not in every corners of Australia. We're not at every single auction. So I think we can't really add value yet. Yeah. But there's an auction in every corner of Metro Melbourne. Auction should be a part of people's research. If it isn't, what might end up happening is you might attend auctions, you'll miss out, and then you'll be learning through it without really realizing it.
That makes sense. Could you walk us through a typical day for an auction reporter? So one of your team goes out to the auction. What do they do? How does that start?
Well, what a typical Saturday looks like is auctions can start as early as 9:30 a.m., but in general, it starts from 10 a.m. onwards. A quick question for you. do you know, on average, how many auctions happen in Melbourne on a given Saturday?
I have no idea.
If you had to guess?
200.
Okay. So it's more like 800, 900 on a super
Wow.
Saturday. You can even get up to 1,300 auctions
That's wild.
on one Saturday.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, Saturdays are filled with auctions. If you're just driving out and about in your suburb, you'll see those pointer boards showing you know, open for inspection auctions. So there's literally hundreds of auctions happening on Saturday. So leading up to the Saturday, for us, it's all about planning and scheduling and getting the team out to as many auctions as possible. And on Saturday is really executing, right?
Yeah.
So what it looks like for me is, so say if the auction starts is at 10 a.m. auctions, I'll probably rock up maybe 15, 20 minutes prior.
Yes.
I'll get a bit more footage about the atmosphere and stuff like that. And then obviously, you know, we set up our live streams and stuff like that. And then we go live when the auction starts. Yep. Most auctions typically last for anywhere between, 15 to 20 minutes. Some could only take 5 minutes. Some could go up to 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. But in general, 15 to 20 minutes is a good amount of time. And then, if it's a very good auction and it's successful, very often we try and see if the vendors, the sellers, are happy to have a chat with us. For me, beyond, capturing the whole auction so that it can complete our research by understanding the demand, learning about a seller's selling experience is actually, I find that very interesting, because when I sold my property here in Australia, I didn't have anyone that I could readily reach out and, ask, and I figured it out myself, right? When I have this opportunity after a good sale, I like to interview the sellers, learn about their selling experience, because I feel success leaves clues, and you can always learn from people's experience. So so we interview the sellers to learn about their selling experience, and once we're done there, we're heading off to the next one.
Yeah, wow.
And generally around 3-4 p.m., that's when most auctions end, and the rest is, family time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, look, I guess on top of that question, how many auctions can your team get to, like, during a day? I think that's because I would imagine that they run throughout the day. It's not just in the morning, but I guess the majority are sort of in the morning, because I think it's a good time.
Yeah.
But so for somebody who's on the ground, what's that? They move to the next one, then they move to the next one. How many auctions a day? On
a quieter day, it could be maybe around 1 to 2 auctions a person, because there are a few things that limits it, right? The routes, the time, and the travel distance between the auctions. Right? So anywhere between 2 to maybe 5 maximum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess with all of that information that you gather, right, I would imagine there'd be a fair bit. If you're live streaming, you'd also come back, get the video. There'd be editing of the video. There'd be gathering the data, making sure that's all there, analyzing it, publishing it as well. I would imagine this is quite a bit of work. So how do you guys gather and analyze the data to provide those accurate insights?
I used to take all these auction videos even before I turned it into a business, right, as part of my own research, so that I can refer back to it. But I found it was very time consuming, right? So what I ended up doing was I would watch the video once, and I would extract all that information, and I used to prepare a bit of a summary for myself, so that further down 2 weeks down the road, I see a 3-bedroom property that I'm interested in. I can just come back to this auction that I attended that was very relevant, and just look up the summary. Right. So what we tend to do for every auction is the key information we extracted, the key information such as the opening bid, right? That is a very important data point, because what most people don't realize is, in a good market, the auction can start at anywhere, right? It will still get to where it needs to get. The market will always get it right. There's this one auction, the block last season in Hampton East. So the auctioneer was the auctioneer that conducted the auction of the winning sale. And he flew down from Sydney. His name is Tom Penner. So anyway, he came down. He was conducting the auction, and it was publicly advertised that the reserve was just $1. Right?
That's right.
So literally the bidding started at $1. Right. So there's no better proof that in a good market, when you have enough competition, when there's enough demand, the opening bid
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But having that data point tells you how good the market actually is.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because what we all know is real estate agents, they understand the demand because they're meeting with all the buyers.
Yes.
Right? So the auction is where they are in full control of how they set up the auction.
Yes.
So if the market is good, if there's a lot of interest, they would actually be happier for the auction to start lower.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Right?
Yes,
so that a lot more people can come to
show
play.
up. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not about the price guide or anything.
No.
This is about starting the auction,
Yes.
the first bid. But if there's not enough interest, they try to protect the price that the vendors want by starting the price a bit higher, so that you don't get caught off guard by someone saying, say if you're expecting to reach 1.2, no one starts the auction at 800.
Yes, because the auction is binding once it's complete, right? Like it's sort of,
Only if it's above the reserve. If
Yes.
it's not, it just gets
I see.
passed in.
Yeah.
So the opening bid is very important.
Yep.
The other key data point is when it is publicly announced that it's on the market, right? It basically tells you the minimum the vendors are prepared to accept. Of course, if it sells at that price, they'll probably not be as happy. They probably want more. And then where it ends up selling
Yes.
has context.
Yes.
So the sold price without all these data points is actually irrelevant, right? So it gives context about how hot the market is, how much competition there is for something like this. Because if a property gets put on the market, say at 1 million, but it sells for 1.3 million, there was enough competition and demand to drive it for another 300 grand extra.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But
But if you do not have the on the market price or where it started to begin with, and it's sold for 1.3,
yes.
what does that actually mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. So the moment I started realizing this, whenever we did a video, we made it a point to extract that key information and make it available. That's exactly what you would find from our website. You can just sign up. It's a free account. You can watch the auction, but if you want to do a quick research, you can go look up for 3-bedroom properties in Mulgrave, for example, the areas that we cover a lot.
Yeah.
And then you can look up at all the past auctions and see where they started, what price it got called on the market, and what it eventually sold for.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Well, so you're putting all this work into capture video, live stream, gather data. How do you guys make money?
Yeah, good question. And this was something that I struggled for a very long time. So for 2 years, the whole of 2015 and 2016, I was just doing it, knowing that I'm building an audience on one side, and knowing that real estate agents love what I was doing, but I didn't know where and how do I monetize.
Yes.
Right? But everything changed when eventually real estate agents started to, reach out to me and say, "Hey, Puvan, thank you for, coming to that auction last week. I've got this good auction coming up this coming Saturday.
Yeah.
Can you come out to that auction?" And when I wasn't planning to go, because it wasn't the kind of property I was actually interested in. I was looking more for something to invest. I was looking for something that I can either subdivide or renovate and add more value to it. I wasn't looking for the big mansion, that you're forever home. I wasn't at that stage of my journey.
Yeah.
So I wasn't interested in that. They offered to pay me to come out.
Oh, wow.
And do it.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So back then it wasn't, as sophisticated as it is now. We didn't have any services. We didn't have anything else other than literally rocking up with our mobile phones, going on Facebook, clicking the live button, and that's it.
Yeah.
That was all we did.
Yeah.
So I was like, come on, you can do. You can just get one of your agents to, pull up their phone and do that. And what he answered actually changed my whole perspective. What he told me was, we're here to represent our clients. We're here to get them the best price. My agents talking to potential buyers, talking to potential sellers in the area is actually more beneficial.
Yes.
So can you please come out to my auction? And then that conversation really started making me believe that, okay, I think there's really something here.
Yeah.
Right. So even I didn't charge him. I just went out and did it because I said, okay, there's something here. So I built a good relationship with this agent. It was in the city of Knox. And eventually, he started asking for different things. This auction is great. It's great that it's on Facebook. But my client, I was at this listing presentation and I was trying to show the client the auction, because if they don't watch the auction, they don't know how good the market actually is.
Yes.
Seeing 5 bidders is really convincing.
Yep.
Compared to just saying it sold for 1.2.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
It's not believable that I can achieve that for my home.
Yes.
So they wanted to show the social proof of demand, of competition, so that the seller believes that, okay, that is achievable for me.
Yes.
Right? So he brought the video, which is a Facebook link, because I went live on Facebook, and he brought it there. He shared the link, but the owner couldn't click on it because they couldn't watch it because they didn't have a Facebook account.
Yep.
So then he's like, can you put it somewhere else
Yep.
so that I can actually bring it into a listing presentation?
Yeah.
So then we started a YouTube channel, because you can watch YouTube without having to sign in. So basically, whatever the agents asked, I never said no. And I was doing all of this for free. But at that point, I was really formulating a service offering.
Yeah.
Right? So to answer your question earlier, how do I make money? So essentially, I'm a media business. I provide video services, live streaming services, essentially a marketing solution for real estate agents and specifically auctions.
Yes.
For the real estate industry.
Yes.
But I use the raw content to build an audience and create value to buyers and sellers looking to research the market through auctions.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's a really interesting path. I guess it sounds sort of like the other pathways that you've taken to end up where you are now. It's a bit interesting, a bit meandering in a way but it still has a purpose and sort of still required some like research, knowledge, and experimentation to sort of get there. So look, that's a really a really in-depth and interesting story. And thank you for sharing it with us. I guess we've got a lot of listeners who might be interested in the auction process itself. So what are some of the key things that buyers should be paying attention to, or common mistakes that first-time bidders make? And are there any red flags that bidders should watch out for when attending an auction? It's kind of a big question. That's sort of 3 in 1, but I think maybe there's a couple of things.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, totally. So what are some of the key things that buyers should be paying attention to at auction?
All right, let's talk about that. So I think what buyers should be paying attention to at an auction is not the sold price, right? And the reason for that is because the person that paid that final price is actually no longer in the market.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, it's irrelevant. Right? What you should be paying attention is, what you should be paying attention to are the underbidders. Right? How they are reacting, how they are behaving, at what price point they start hesitating, losing interest. So if you are actively in the market, you're looking to buy and you're attending auctions, you're trying to bid, you're missing out, you're looking at the wrong thing. Stop looking at the sold price because it's irrelevant for your next purchase. I know we've all been told to do our research and look at sold prices, comparable properties, what it's sold for, to inform you about how much something is worth. But the reality is, if that same house, say for whatever reason, the buyer doesn't end up buying and you just go to auction like literally an hour later, you will not achieve the same price if that buyer is out of the equation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So everyone understands that, but we still look and refer to and rely on sold prices like it's the be all and end all.
I think that's also how to say it. When I guess the success of the real estate market is advertised, that's how it's advertised. It's advertised on that sort of simple headline. So I can see why that would be where people would pay attention to, because that's also what they're told to a degree.
So another reason for that is because if you look, so I'm from Malaysia, and in Malaysia, there's no such thing as auctions, right? And if there were auctions, it was more like they call it bank lelong, which is a mortgagee sale. Someone can't pay, and the bank takes over, and then they just sell it, at maybe 80% of what it's actually worth or whatever it is to recoup their costs. So you don't really see a lot of that, right? So in a world where you don't have public auctions the way we do in Australia and New Zealand, you have no choice but to rely on the sold price. So
Yes.
I get why that is important. But when we have auctions, we don't need to be subjected to just the sold price to
Yes.
inform our buying or selling decision.
Yep.
Right? So where you should be focusing is everything else but the sold price.
Yeah.
If you
that
don't
makes
have
sense.
everything else, then obviously you have to go with the sold price. So another thing I think that buyers should really change the way they think or their mindset to help them purchase quicker
Yes.
is, you see, most people find it very uncomfortable stretching when they're at the auction,
Yes.
right? They come with a very hard and fast budget limit.
Yes.
I'm not saying go to auctions without a limit and just keep stretching.
Yes.
But you need to have a stretch number.
Yes.
But most people are uncomfortable doing that, right? They just fix a price that they're comfortable with.
Yep.
And then they watch it sell for maybe 10, 20, 50, 100 grand above what they were prepared to pay.
Yes.
But what they don't realize is that final result will be a comparable in the next listing that they're looking for.
Yes.
Right? Even if it's not an auction, even if it's a private sale,
Yes.
they are basically referencing that price that they were not happy to pay.
Yes.
And that will be used as an anchor point for them to negotiate the next price. Because
Yes.
when you're looking at all the sold prices, they're just sold prices.
Yes.
You don't see any of the platforms, any of the portals telling you that, oh, this price was actually achieved through auction.
Yes.
The reserve or the on the market price was $1 million,
I see what you mean.
but it's sold
Yes.
for 1.3.
Yes.
You take 1.3 as
Yes.
the truth, as the true value,
Yep.
and not an inflated value.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you're in the thick of the auction,
Yes.
you are not comfortable with that price.
Yep.
But a month later or 3 weeks later, you're happy to accept that price
Yes.
as an anchor point for you to start negotiations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the moment that hit me, I was like, oh my God, how come I didn't see this before?
Well, look, I think that's fair. I think that makes a lot of sense that you had that realization because of your experience. But I could see that from, let's say, a novice buyer, even a seasoned buyer, they may not see it the same way you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that reason, whichever auction we attend, we make it a point to extract that key summary points and make it accessible for everyone to benefit from it.
Look, have you noticed any common mistakes that first-time bidders make at an auction? Apart from what you mentioned, which was sort of having that price anger in their mind, and maybe not being willing to stretch.
Yeah. So I think a common mistake that people do is because everything is so transparent, to a certain extent they become too reliant on it. And what I mean by that is, and too reliant in the wrong way. Yes. Right? And what I mean by that is, if you rock up at an auction, you've done your research, you think it's worth X, Y, Z, whatever that amount is, right? But if no one is bidding, you start questioning and you're like, oh, maybe it's not worth, maybe there's something wrong.
Yes.
When, it's like, this is your lucky day.
Yes. Yes.
Provided you have done enough research and you've done your due diligence, right? But then all of a sudden, when people start bidding, then people think, oh, I don't want to miss out. So that's the complete, that's the complete opposite thing we should be doing. If you've done your research, you're confident about what it's truly worth.
Yes.
You should celebrate when no one is bidding.
Yes. Yes, of course.
And you should go confidently.
Yes.
Right? And when everyone is bidding, you should not jump in and fuel the fire.
Yes.
Instead, you should take a pause, say if you have done your research wrong, you should reevaluate. Okay, now how am I going to respond seeing this demand? Instead of going incrementally by 1,000 and then, should I go another 5? Should I go another 1? Take a step back, pause, don't add fuel to the fire, let the fire do its thing. But, ask yourself, okay, I didn't understand. I wasn't aware of how much demand there is. Okay, now that I know that there's this much demand, how does that change what I'm doing? Do I still like this? Is this, because sometimes people make a decision very objectively.
Yes.
But the reality is when they're buying a property, especially in Metro Melbourne, most people are buying to live in or buying to upgrade or looking for the forever home.
Yes.
it's an emotional decision.
Of course.
So you need to add that emotional component to your price point. Whether you like it or not, the market will force you to do it.
Yes.
Right? So ask yourself, how much does being close to the school mean to me?
Yes.
Right? Being on the next street to my siblings mean to me, or being close to my mom because she needs attention and care.
Yes.
So all of that is worth something,
Yes,
right? So take a
yes.
step back, ask yourself how much does all of this, and then readjust it to
Yes.
a point where you think, okay, I'm happy beyond this. I'll actually regret buying it,
Yep.
and then go back in.
Yep.
Instead of, maybe another 1,000 would help me. Maybe another 5,000 would help me.
I see what you mean.
Take a step back, increase it by 20, 30, 50, whatever that number is to you, right? Everyone's circumstances are different.
Yes.
And then go back in.
Yeah.
But when you go back in, don't hesitate.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good advice. Are there any red flags bidders should watch out for when attending an auction? You did mention sort of crowd size, right? If there's only a few people, I think that's a really good indication of if you've done your research correctly, as you said, that it would be you should be celebrating that opportunity. If there's a lot of people and a lot of action, I guess that's something else. But are there any other kind of things that people should watch out for that may be like this doesn't look quite right or?
All right. So I think in terms of red flags, this is not specifically auction, but auction kind of impacts it. But because auctions are unconditional sale, so there's no 3 days cooling off period. Once it's knocked down to you, it's yours.
Yep.
Right? So when you're going to bid on a property, make sure you've done your due diligence. Unless it's a purely investment property and you're going to rent it out or you're going to knock it down and rebuild, then probably it's irrelevant,
Yes.
right? But if this is going to be your first home or this is going to be your forever home and
Yes.
it's important that you get it right, do your due diligence,
Yeah.
right? So that when you're bidding, you're confident about what that is actually worth to you.
Yeah.
So I had a friend. I won't mention names. I won't mention the suburb as well. But I had a friend who recently, bought at auction. They were happy with the purchase. They're excited. It was a very nice place and everything. Only to find out the following week that after winning the property, that all the extensions to the back and all the improvements at the the backyard, the deck, and all of that was done without permit.
Oh,
Right?
that sounds serious.
So now they have basically taken over all that responsibility, all the liability, all the risk without. Yeah. So yeah, definitely do your due diligence.
Yep.
Right. If you see something that has been newly done, you can always call up the council
Yes.
and just ask, were there any planning permits or, I see this improvements done to the property.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done? Was everything
Done to code.
done
Yeah.
correctly? And you can always, inquire that way.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have assumed that would be something that that would still be the responsibility of the buyer, right? Because
Yeah.
I guess that's something that the property is presented as a way that it's saying, this is the property that's being sold. This is already legitimate, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the real estate agent who has the responsibility of selling that property as presented as a functioning product, right? Let's say as a product, let's say.
Yeah.
And it's also then I guess the seller's responsibility to make sure that product is a good product to sell.
Yeah.
In this case, both of those things didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then your friend ended up buying this property and then being laden with these problems.
Yeah.
So I guess in that case, it sounds really complicated, but as you said, it's also unconditional. Does that mean that they end up not being able to have any recourse, or is it?
So this is where I think the responsibility to answer that question actually belongs with the conveyancer. So seek legal advice.
I see. Yeah. That's
right?
that's a good way.
Everyone can have opinions.
Yes.
But for you to actually do something
Yeah.
and get an outcome that you want, as they say, prevention is always better than cure.
Absolutely.
But so the reality is, there's going to be a lot of things when you go and see properties. There's going to be a lot of properties where, the owners have just, done this, done that. And if it's minor things, you don't want to go through the hassle of getting permit. In fact, the property I told you that I sold before I started the business, I had done things to it that I didn't get permit.
Yeah.
Right. But those were not, you can just demolish it. It's not going to affect the house.
Yes.
So, I had subdivided the unit at the front.
Yes.
So I was actually planning to put because I had a newborn and stuff. So I was like, eventually I want to put a trampoline in the front because I didn't have a backyard, right?
Yeah.
Because the car park was at the back. So I was like, I want to put a trampoline, but the driveway, there was no fence.
Yes, I
So
see. Yes.
I didn't feel it was safe. So I wanted to put a bit of a partition
Makes
there.
sense.
But to put the fence, you need to get council permit.
Yeah, okay. I see.
Right? So I did that, but I knew what the risk was, and if I had to take it down, I'll just take it down.
Yeah.
Right.
What trends have you noticed in the auction market recently? Are there sort of surprises or shifts in buyer behavior? And I guess we could say maybe in the last 3 months.
I think auctions is a very good representation of what's happening in the market from a sentiment perspective, from a demand perspective. You can just go and attend auctions, and you will know what actually is happening. So. I wouldn't say how trends have changed, but one thing I've noticed, and most people will find it hard to probably understand, but I'll try my best to explain this. But if you look at an auction, right, say if there's 5 or 6 bidders, there's going to be people who are happy to play at the lower end, at the shallow end.
Yep.
And then there's people who are happy to play at, fair market value.
Yep.
And then there's people who are happy to, play to keep.
Yeah.
But no buyer actually starts right here at the top. Most buyers go through that education process. They'll start here, miss out on enough, and then they build confidence to be in this level. And then they will eventually get here. Right? So how hot the market actually is, of course, there's a lot of macro things that are happening. But from a very specific local market, when you're looking to buy, you should pay attention to how heavy this top level actually is, right? Because these buyers will eventually buy and they'll be out.
Yes.
Right? So what you'll see is when you see yourself missing out, there will be a small window of opportunity where you have exhausted all these buyers.
Yes.
And, the market is still manufacturing the people from this level to this level to this level.
Yes.
And this is your opportunity.
Yes.
You know? And this sometimes people find themselves in this situation and they're like, after missing out on so many, seeing lots of competition, they start questioning their research.
Yes.
It's a good opportunity. It's that window that you should be, you should be celebrating if you find yourself in that position because other buyers haven't upgraded themselves to that level.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I think you're just saying once the competition sort of thins out, essentially, right, at that top level where they're willing to pay, I wouldn't say any price, but they're willing to go above and beyond fair market value to secure that property for whatever reason that they want to do that. And once they've gone through that process, as you said, they're out of the market, so that they're out of that pool.
And the market
new people will join that pool, but
it takes them a few missing outs to get there. Yeah.
And I guess Auction Reporters, like the service that you provide, can actually, speed up that process, so you don't have to attend every single auction. At least you can look at the live streams or the recordings and of the others that you maybe missed out in the same area but couldn't attend yourself.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, right, you mentioned a very good point. So this is one of the other reasons why we actually built the website, right? So when I was there attending all these auctions, researching the market, to be confident about how much to pay and whatnot, I found myself finding a property that I am really interested in, but then not being confident about the price. So I'll miss this, miss out on this, miss out on that, miss out on that. And then eventually I'll get to one, but I have enough relevant experience, then I'm happy to purchase that.
Yes.
So then I was thinking, basically, you get confidence by looking back.
Yep.
But what happens if we have all this, already captured and easily
That's right.
accessible,
Yes.
so that even when you arrive at the first one, you can, instead of watching forward to be confident, you can watch backward,
Yes.
get all that market knowledge,
Yes.
and quickly upgrade yourself from here to here to here,
Yeah.
and purchase it quickly.
So I guess on that point, we should obviously be all signed up to auctionreporters.com.au so that we can make sure that we're watching live streams and understanding the suburbs that we want to buy in.
Especially if you are looking to buy or you live in the areas that we predominantly service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those areas are, predominantly the city of Monash, the city of Knox, the city of Maroondah, and Manningham, and some of the surrounding areas.
Oh, perfect. And I guess, what future trends do you see shaping the auction market, and how is Auction Reporters adapting to these changes?
So I think, like the rest of the world, COVID basically forced every industry to kind of like change, evolve, or reinvent themselves in some way, shape, or form. And I think the real estate market and auctions in general has also evolved in that sense. So there's obviously, public auction on the street in front of the property, but online auctions have also emerged.
Yeah.
Quite a fair bit. But whether or not that will become mainstream, I think we just have to wait and see. Because in Australia, most of the houses that we're seeing, or in Melbourne, I can't speak for all the other states, but in Melbourne, a lot of the time when a buyer buys, they're normally moving, to the next city.
Yes.
Or upgrading, going closer to something that is valuable to them.
Yes.
So they're not like, interstate.
Yes.
That they cannot access.
Yes.
And if you give people the option of you can either bid online or would you come out to the auction, most people will still rather go there, have another inspection, and then finally make that decision. Because bidding is one thing,
yes,
but being able to see and observe your competition while you make that decision on how much to increase that the next bid,
yes,
is something that you cannot get.
Yeah,
you can't see people's body language when you're bidding online. So that has something that has started in what do you call that, during COVID.
Yes.
And a lot of agencies are still doing online auctions to a certain extent. But the trend is it's happening for more of the not so popular auctions.
Yes.
Right? To make it accessible for more people.
Look, I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But the good ones, the really popular ones, they still prefer to, create that whole auction atmosphere, have a coffee cart in front there. And just it's a very lively and full of energy kind of event every Saturdays. Yeah.
Can you share a memorable auction story where sort of bidders defied expectations or something unexpected happened?
All right, I'll share this very interesting story because, after attending so many auctions, you think you've seen everything, right? But then you'll be surprised. Okay. There's always something new that happens. So one more recent one was an auction in Mulgrave. So you know how people say, don't bid emotionally, right? Because people can get emotionally attached to a property. Yeah. And you see that happening quite a fair bit, right? Because, it's unique. It's, all the work has been done. You can really see yourself living there for the next 10 years. Yeah. And it's painful if you miss out, right? So that's one emotional side of things. But very rarely you see people going at it because of ego.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this auction, the guy bidding, it's online, you can go watch it, but I won't tell you which one, so you can't find it.
So we have to watch all your content just to be able to check it out.
So anyway, it was in Mulgrave. But this bidder, it was so obvious that it was ego that was driving the price, because he was bidding very confidently at the start, as if, I've got plenty of money. My pockets are very deep. And then the competition kept coming back, and then it got to a point where he started hesitating, right? And obviously the auctioneer did a good job to kind of like stir him up a bit as well. Yeah. What? I thought, you're definitely going to get this. You're giving up now? Yeah. And at some point from wanting the property, you can see that it changed into, ego taking over the bidding kind of thing. And then the underbidder kind of like saw that happening and he already gave up. He's like, yeah, it's not worth this much. But then he still kept bidding because he saw that the other person was bidding out of ego. And it's like,
Yep.
you know what? I'm going to make you pay more.
Wow.
And he actually said that.
Yeah, wow.
You know, I heard him saying that to the agent. He's
okay.
like, I'm bidding now just to make him pay more. He's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought I've seen everything, but this was something very different.
Yep. So I guess that one went over fair market value is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
All right. Look, I guess here as a macro thing, we've got kind of, if you had a magic wand and could make a key change or two to improve the auction process for both buyers and sellers, what would it be?
The change I would like to see is what we're already doing, right? Is, what we're doing at Auction Reporters. Because I think, buying a property is a very stressful process, especially if you have kids, going out to all these inspections. You can plan, 6-7 inspections in a row, but your kids need a halftime break, and after the second one, they had enough.
Yeah.
And then you're playing tag team. One is taking care of the kids in the car. Your partner is going in.
Yep.
It is very stressful, right? But if you're doing all the inspections without attending auctions as part of your research, when you get to the negotiation table, you're not going to be confident, whether it's private sale or you're bidding at auction. And that will just prolong the whole process. Because when you miss out, you're being educated. So what I think is important, if I had the magic wand and design, would be what I'm already doing. But I would love to cover every single auction in the whole of Australia. But that's not very achievable. But what is achievable is, no matter how hard, try. Especially if there's an auction that is relevant to what you are looking for, even if it's not the exact one that you want. The people who are bidding there will be the ones you'll be negotiating against. Right? So make it a point to schedule that as part of your Saturday.
That's really interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So go and attend those auctions, learn not just from the sold price, but what everyone else is doing, where they start hesitating, because that will give you a very good indication of where you need to be.
All right. Well, look, that's great. And then, where does a buyer find the live streams for all of these auctions that you're reporting on?
Awesome. So for if you're looking to buy or sell in the areas that we cover, which is the cities that I mentioned, Monash, Knox, Manningham, Maroondah, we live stream all our auctions to YouTube, Facebook. It's on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing.
And you can find us on TikTok as well.
I figured TikTok would be pretty popular, surprisingly enough.
So we live stream on TikTok, but the live stream doesn't stay on there. So if you're tuning in live, by all means, go to TikTok. But TikTok, we are a bit more selective about what we put on TikTok. And after that, we have some shorts, more of an entertainment kind of thing on TikTok. So you can follow us on any of the social media channels. But if you're serious about researching and stuff, do check out our website. Create a free account and look up auctions. You can look up a suburb, filter by the number of bedrooms, and only watch those auctions that is relevant to yourself. But I guess a final call out to if you're in an area that we don't yet cover, you should go and attend those auctions. But I would encourage you not to just attend. Why don't you be an auction reporter yourself? Take a video of it, share that video with us, and we'll turn that into valuable insights that everyone else can benefit.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's great to be able to encourage people to crowdsource a bit of the information as well. Pooven, thanks for your time. It's been really good sitting down with you. And I think there's so much really useful information and sort of even mindsets and ways of looking at auctions from a different perspective that you've offered that I definitely haven't heard elsewhere. So this has been really valuable for me, and I'm sure our listeners. Is there anything that you'd like to close out with?
I guess as a final wrap up, whether you're in the phase where you're looking to move out of a rental, buying your first home, or buying the next home when you're upsizing, whatever that situation is, it's a very stressful and daunting process. I've been there. I know how difficult it is. And I guess I'd just like to extend an open invitation. If you just want to bounce some ideas, if you're going to an auction and you just want to run a few things by me,
Yeah.
feel free to reach out. I'm happy
Amazing.
to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Always open to, talking about property,
Yep.
talking about auctions,
Yep.
and talking about business in general.
Yep.
So feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social media channels. And I hope what I've shared is helpful. It benefits you. And the work that we do, I hope it helps you as well. But on a more personal level, if there's anything, I can help you, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's been great.